I never thought I'd be the guy to catch his wife cheating, especially not over some damn bank statements. But here I am, staring at the screen in disbelief, realizing that everything I thought was secure, our future, our savings, our trust, was a complete lie. Her name, Emily, and I married her about 8 years ago. At first, she seemed like the perfect partner, smart, beautiful, confident. We had our ups and downs, sure, but I always believed we had a good thing going. We were building a life, saving for a house, planning to retire comfortably. That's why I was so blindsided when I started noticing something odd in the joint account statements. It all started a few weeks ago when I casually checked our online banking app, something I'd done countless times before. But this time, I saw a transfer I didn't recognize. It was a hefty sum, more than I'd ever seen go out without a clear reason. I looked closer, and the details made my stomach sink. It was made to an account with a weird name, some guy I'd never heard of, Eric something. My mind instantly went to the worst. Who the hell is Eric? Why is Emily sending him money? And why was that transfer made right around the same time she started acting more distant, more dismissive? I didn't tell her I saw it right away. Instead, I kept quiet, watching her behavior. She'd go out a lot more, claiming she had work dinners or meetings, but her phone was always glued to her hand and she'd get defensive if I asked about it. Small things, really. The way she'd lock her phone when I entered the room, or how she'd quickly change the subject when I brought up her late nights. I figured maybe she was just stressed, or maybe I was imagining things. But then came the second transfer, this time even bigger, and to another account she insisted she had nothing to do with. The pattern was clear. She was hiding something. The thing is, Emily is the kind of woman who's always been a little bitchy and dismissive, especially when she doesn't want to tell the truth. She'd lie about even trivial stuff, forgotten plans, why her hair was wet, or how she managed to spend so much on that designer handbag she swore she bought on sale. Still, I never imagined she'd cheat on me, especially with some guy just handling our retirement plans. It was so classic. She's always been obsessed with money, with appearances, with keeping up that perfect image. I thought she was smart enough to handle her shit. But I was wrong. I mean, how do you find out your wife's been screwing around with the guy who's supposed to be helping us secure our future? It's fucked up on every level. One night, I decided enough was enough. I waited until she was passed out drunk, then I went through her phone. I found messages, flirty, suggestive, downright disgusting, between her and that Eric guy. They'd been talking for months. She'd been lying to me the entire time. All those late nights, all those business dinners she claimed were innocent, were anything but. The texts were filled with talk about their sexcapades, her fantasies, how much she loved the thrill of sneaking around. And the worst part, she said she was doing it to feel alive again, like I was some kind of dull, useless husband she was just tolerating. That moment hit me like a punch to the gut. My marriage was a sham. My wife, the woman I trusted, was screwing some other guy who was supposed to be advising us. And here I was, feeling like a complete idiot for not seeing it earlier. I felt anger rising in my chest, hot, intense, unmanageable. It was rage at her, at myself, at the whole fucked up situation. I wanted to scream, to shake her awake, to demand answers. But I knew I had to be smart about this. I needed a plan. I couldn't just blow up and make a scene. I had to think, to gather my strength, to figure out what to do next. Because everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, was gone. And I was left standing in the ruins of it, trying to breathe through the shock. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind kept replaying everything I'd found last night. Her sneaky texts, the transfers, the way she lied so effortlessly. I felt betrayed, stupid for not noticing sooner. How could I have missed all the signs? I had trusted her with everything, with our money, with our future. And now it was all compromised by her lies and that bastard Eric. I couldn't sleep anymore, so I made myself a strong cup of coffee and sat down at the kitchen table, staring at the phone she left on the counter, just waiting for her to wake up. When she finally stumbled into the kitchen, still half asleep, I looked at her with a cold stare. Her eyes flicked to me, and I could see that guilty tick she always tried to hide, her fingers twitching, her eyes darting. I didn't say a word at first. I just handed her the phone. Her face instantly shifted into that bitchy sneer she puts on when she's caught. "What's this?" she asked, trying to sound innocent. I kept my voice steady but firm. "You tell me. Why were you texting Eric? Why did you send him money? What's going on, Emily?" She froze for a second, then put on that fake innocent act she's perfected over the years. "Oh, come on, Dan," she said, rolling her eyes. "It's nothing, just some stupid investment thing. He's a friend from work, trying to help me with some financial advice." Her voice was a little too breezy, too dismissive. It was obvious she was lying, but I could see the panic behind her eyes. I didn't buy it, not for a second. I pressed her further, asking about the transfers, about the secret accounts she kept hidden. She started sputtering excuses, saying it was a mistake, that she was just trying to fix our finances, that I was overreacting. Honestly, I'd had enough. I told her I knew the truth, that she'd been cheating on me with Eric, that she'd been hiding it from me for months. Her face twisted into that angry, bitchy glare she always wore when she thought she could manipulate her way out of it. "You're crazy," she snapped. "You're just jealous. I don't know what you think you saw, but you're imagining things. I love you, Dan. I'm just trying to make sure we're okay financially. You're always so paranoid." That's when I snapped back. "You're full of shit, Emily. You've been screwing around behind my back, using my trust to hide this guy. And I want to know exactly how long you've been lying to me." She scoffed and rolled her eyes again, as if I'd just accused her of stealing candy from a kid. "You're making a big deal out of nothing. You always blow things out of proportion. Maybe I need some space to breathe. I'm not cheating, I swear. You're just paranoid because I've been stressed lately." But I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew the truth. She'd been lying to my face, and I could feel my blood boiling. My mind raced, trying to process everything. The betrayal, the lies, the fact that she'd been planning this with Eric the entire time. I felt a mix of fury and heartbreak, knowing that the woman I'd married had been playing me all along. That day was a blur. I didn't say much after her "I swear I'm innocent" bullshit. Instead, I sat there watching her, trying to catch her in another lie. I knew I had to prepare myself for what was coming because I could feel that this wasn't over. There was so much more beneath the surface. The betrayal wasn't just about money. It was about trust, respect, the foundation of everything I thought we had. I couldn't just let her brush this off. I had to decide what to do next, but one thing was clear. My world had just been turned upside down, and I was furious. After that confrontation, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept spinning with everything I'd uncovered. I started digging into her phone, her email accounts, her social media, anything that might give me more clues. The more I looked, the more I found. There were messages, hidden folders, receipts from hotels she'd booked for business trips that I now knew were just cover stories for her trips with Eric. Every piece of evidence felt like a slap in the face. I also started questioning everything. How long has she been doing this? Was I just blind, or was I deliberately ignoring the signs? It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about the betrayal, the fact that she'd been lying to me for months. I felt humiliated, angry, and deeply hurt. How could she be so callous, so bitchy and dismissive when I confronted her? She always played the innocent victim, but now I saw her for what she was, someone who manipulates, lies, and cheats her way through life. I decided I needed a plan. I couldn't just storm into her office or have a shouting match she'd expect that. No, I needed to be strategic. I wanted to catch her in the act, expose her lies, and make her realize that I wasn't going to be played for a fool. First, I contacted a private investigator I knew from work, someone discreet who could follow her without raising suspicion. I told him to track her movements, find out who she was meeting, and gather more concrete evidence. I wasn't just going to accuse her blindly. I wanted proof, undeniable proof, so I could confront her with everything. While I waited for the investigator to do his job, I kept digging through our finances. I checked our bank account details thoroughly, trying to piece together how much she'd taken and where it might have gone. It was clear she'd been funneling money to Eric for a while. I found receipts for hotel stays, dinner dates, even some random trips she'd booked to visit him in another city. That's when I realized this wasn't just a fling. It was an affair, a full-blown betrayal that went way deeper than I expected. The emotional toll was brutal. Every new piece of evidence chipped away at my self-esteem. I kept wondering if I was just a sucker, a guy who worked hard, trusted his wife, and got betrayed in the worst way. I felt betrayed, humiliated, but also pretty damn furious. I spent nights pacing the house, thinking about all those years I'd dedicated to building a life with her, only to find out she was sleeping around, lying, sneaking behind my back. The image of her with Eric, the way she'd lied and manipulated me, everything about it made my stomach churn. One thing I knew for sure, I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I still loved her stupidly, painfully loved her, but I also knew I had to do something. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay when I was drowning in lies. So I made up my mind. I'd have a serious talk with her, one last confrontation with all the evidence laid out. If she denied it again, I'd go further. I started planning how I'd confront her, what to say, how to keep my cool. Because I knew if I lost control, everything would spiral out of control. I was at a crossroads. Part of me wanted to walk away, to file for divorce and cut my losses. But another part was still holding on to hope that maybe, just maybe, I could salvage what was left of the marriage if she was willing to face her shit. That's what made this so hard, because deep down I still loved her, even if she had betrayed me in the worst way imaginable. But I also knew that trust, once broken, isn't easy to fix. And right now, trust was dead. All I had was a plan to get the truth out in the open and decide what my next move would be. The day of the confrontation finally arrived. I had everything laid out, all the evidence I'd collected, screenshots of their texts, receipts, bank transfers, the hotel bookings, and I was ready to face her. I knew she'd try to deny everything, spin some bullshit story, but I didn't care. I needed her to know I wasn't blind, that I wasn't stupid enough to keep pretending. When she came home from work that evening, I was sitting at the dining table, the evidence spread out in front of me like a war map. Her face immediately went pale when she saw it. She knew she'd been caught, but her bitchy attitude kicked in fast. "Dan, what the hell is this?" She snapped, trying to brush past me as if I was just some inconvenience, but I was ready. I blocked her path and looked her straight in the eye. "I want to know everything," I said calmly but firmly. "How long has this been going on? When did you start sleeping with Eric? Why? And don't even try to lie your way out of this, Emily. I've got proof and I'm tired of your bullshit." Her eyes narrowed. "You're overreacting, Dan," she hissed. "This is just some stupid business thing. You're making a big deal out of nothing. I swear I haven't cheated." "Stop," I cut her off. "You've been lying this whole time. Those transfers, those hotel receipts, the texts, you think I'm that stupid? You've been using me, using our money, and probably thinking you could get away with it because I was too blind or too trusting. Well, not anymore." Her mouth opened and closed a few times, but no words came out right away. Instead, she started crying, that fake crocodile tears she always used when she got caught. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she blubbered. "It's just sex, it's not a big deal. Eric's just someone I met through work. We're not serious. I was just feeling alive again, you know. I was furious, I'd heard enough." "Feeling alive? You're cheating on me with some guy who's supposed to be helping us plan for retirement. Seriously, you think lying and sneaking around is how you feel alive, Emily? You're a manipulative, bitchy liar, and I want you out of my house." Her eyes widened and her bitchiness slipped into full-blown anger. "Oh, so now you're throwing me out just like that? You don't love me anymore. After everything, you're just going to toss me aside." "No," I said, voice trembling with rage. "I don't love a liar, and I don't love someone who cheats. I loved you, I really did, but you showed me who you truly are. I'm done. You want to be with Eric, fine. But I'm not sticking around to be your backup plan or your sucker anymore." She stormed out of the room, screaming, calling me names, accusing me of being paranoid. But I didn't care. I felt a strange mix of relief and heartbreak. Relief because I finally knew the truth. Heartbreak because I realized I'd wasted so many years on someone who only cared about herself. I called a lawyer, made arrangements to get a divorce, and started packing her things. I was done with her lies, her manipulations, her delusions. That night, I sat alone in the quiet house, feeling empty but also strangely lighter. I knew this wasn't going to be easy. There would be fights, tears, maybe even a bitter court battle. But I also knew I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies and betrayal. I had to start over, rebuild my life from scratch. And as I looked at the photos of our wedding of happier times, I couldn't help but wonder how everything fell apart so fast. One thing I learned through all this: trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to fix. But I also learned that some people only care about themselves and their own pleasure, no matter who gets hurt in the process. I thought I knew my wife, but I was just blind to her true nature. Now I'm left picking up the pieces, trying to figure out how to move forward without the woman I loved. The days that followed were worse than I expected. The house was eerily quiet, filled with memories of a life I thought was solid. Every corner, every piece of furniture seemed to echo with her presence, her laughter, her bitchy comments, her lies. I started going through all the things she left behind, trying to find some sense of closure. It hurt seeing her stuff packed up, knowing I'd never see that false smile or hear that dismissive tone again. But deep down, I knew I had to keep moving forward. I also made sure to check our finances carefully. I wanted to see just how much she'd taken, how far she'd gone to cover her tracks. The receipts, the bank statements, they told a story of betrayal I couldn't ignore. She drained our savings, funneling money to Eric, probably thinking she could get away with it. That realization stung worse than anything else. It wasn't just the betrayal of her cheating. It was the complete destruction of our financial security, something we had worked so hard for. Our retirement, our future, disappeared in her deception. I reached out to the lawyer, got the divorce process started, and filed the papers. Honestly, it was a relief to finally be taking control, but it also meant facing the truth that I'd been played. I wasn't just blindsided. I'd been blinded by love, trust, and naive hope. I wondered how I missed all the signs, how I let her manipulate me for so long. And part of me wondered if she was genuinely sorry, or if this was just another way to lie her way out of trouble. It wasn't long before she tried to reach out. At first, she sent apologies, blame shifting, and fake tears. Her voice on the phone was whiny, trying to guilt me into taking her back. She'd say things like, "Dan, I didn't mean to hurt you. It was just sex. It doesn't mean anything. Please don't throw away everything we had." That's when I realized her manipulative game was only getting worse. She didn't care about the damage she'd done. She only cared about saving herself. I told her to back off. I wasn't interested in her excuses or her crying fits. Honestly, I felt numb most of the time, angry at her, disappointed in myself, and trying to remind myself that I deserved better. I kept telling myself that life was too short to waste on someone who only brought pain. Sure, I still felt that ache deep inside, the heartbreak of losing someone I once loved, but I also felt a strange sense of liberation. I was finally free from her bullshit, free to rebuild my life without her constant lies. Over the next few weeks, I started focusing on myself. I went back to the gym, reconnected with friends I'd neglected, and even took a trip to clear my head. It was a slow process, but I was determined to come out of this stronger. I knew I'd have days when the pain hit hard, especially when I remembered the good times we shared and how she turned out to be someone completely different. But I also knew that I couldn't let her define me. I had to learn to trust myself again, to rebuild my confidence. One thing I learned from this ordeal: sometimes the person you trust the most turns out to be the biggest liar. It hurts like hell, but eventually you realize that your worth isn't tied to someone who only cares about herself. I still carry the scars of her betrayal, but I'm slowly healing. And I'm finally starting to see that life goes on, even after the biggest betrayal of all. I just wish I'd seen the signs sooner, but hey, you live, you learn, and you move forward. Looking back now, I realize that the whole experience changed me in ways I never expected. The betrayal cut deep, but it also forced me to confront my own vulnerabilities, how trusting I was, how blind I had become to the signs. I thought I knew Emily, that she was the woman I married, someone I could count on. Turns out I was just another fool in her game. That knowledge stings, but it's also a hard lesson I won't forget. I learned that some people are only about appearances, about keeping up the facade of a perfect life, but underneath, they're selfish and manipulative. Emily was one of those people. She wanted her freedom, her excitement, her secret sex with Eric, and she didn't care about the damage she left behind. She lied, she cheated, and she played her game until she got caught. And honestly, I'm glad I caught her when I did. It's better to face it now than to keep living in a false dream. I've come to accept that some betrayals are irreparable, that trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. But I also understand that life moves on. I can't change what happened, but I can control how I respond. I focus on rebuilding myself, on making sure I'm stronger, wiser, and more cautious. I don't hate her, at least not anymore. I just recognize her for what she is. Someone who used me, who played on my trust, and who ultimately wasn't worth my pain. Now I'm more careful about who I let into my life. I don't ignore the little signs anymore. I listen to my gut, and I don't let anyone manipulate me. I also realize that being alone, truly alone, is better than being with someone who doesn't respect or value you. That's a hard lesson, but it's one I'd rather learn now than later. The biggest takeaway is that you can't fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed. Some people are just selfish and will lie and cheat no matter what you do. It's not your fault. You have to know when enough is enough and walk away. Because at the end of the day, your happiness and peace of mind matter more than staying in a betrayal-filled marriage out of fear or hope. I don't regret the pain I went through. It taught me resilience, self-respect, and how to recognize red flags early. I've started over, and honestly, life feels a little lighter now. Not because I forget what happened, but because I refuse to let it define me. I'm still healing, still moving forward, but I'm done being the victim. I'm the one in control now. So if anyone out there finds themselves in a similar situation, my advice is simple. Face the truth, learn from it, and don't be afraid to walk away. Sometimes the best revenge is just walking out the door and closing it behind you. Trust me, you deserve better. You're stronger than you think. And ultimately, life goes on.